Hi, listeners. Welcome to Grief Out Loud. Remember the last time you tried to talk about grief and suddenly everybody left the room? Grief Out Loud is opening up this often avoided conversation because grief is hard enough without having to go through it alone. We bring you a mix of personal stories, tips for supporting children, teens, and yourself, and interviews with professionals in the grief world. Platitude and cliche-free, we promise. Grief Out Loud is hosted by me, Jana DeCristofaro, and produced by Dougie Center, the National Grief Center for Children and Families in Portland, Oregon. Hey listeners. So this kind of snuck up on me, but this is our 200th episode. And while numbers are arbitrary, there's something about the milestone ones like 25, 50, 100 that stand out as significant. We at the show are so grateful to each of our guests for sharing their stories with us and to each of you listening. You're who make this show mean what it does. Thank you too for being part of making sure that grief gets the airtime it needs and for helping make our world be more grief aware and informed. There's no way we would have made it to episode 200 without you. For our 100th episode, we asked listeners to share what the show meant to them. So if you missed that one, you can go back in the archives and check it out. For this 200th episode, we went in a very different direction. Some of you may remember Harry Jensen. He was a guest about 2 years ago, talking about how he turned to humor and comedy as a way to deal with the grief of his father's death. Since then, Harry and two of his friends, Madison and Gabby, whose mom died of cancer a few years ago, started their own podcast. It's called Mourning. Madison, Gabby, and Harry are part of what they call the Dead Parents Club, where irreverence and dark humor are not just welcome, but almost required. In this episode, the four of us wander around a lot of grief topics. What they wish the world better understood about what it means to be a young adult who is grieving, how grief affects dating, and suggestions they have for others facing similar situations. We also define pillar parents, duffel bag dads, and moving on moms. And we laugh a lot. The kind of laughter that happens when people who understand grief get together. I also want to give you a heads up that towards the end of our episode, I asked Gabby, Madison, and Harry to share a memory of their parent that maybe their parent wouldn't love the rest of the world to know about. One of those memories references hair on a part of the body that might be considered a little risque. So if you or someone you're listening to wants to skip hearing that, you'll know it's coming right after Harry shares a memory of his dad. Okay, here's episode 200. Harry, Gabby, and Maddie, thanks for coming on Grief Out Loud. It was so fun to be on your show, the Monday Morning Podcast. So thanks for taking some time to be on our show, Grief Out Loud. I'm looking forward to whatever is going to come out of our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. So excited to be here.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things I loved about being on your show was that you all have a very unique, special branded way of introducing yourselves on your show and about like your story of grief. And I thought, let's just do that here today so you all feel comfortable. And you want to take some time to introduce yourselves? Tell us about your people who have died.
Harry, do you want to go first?
Harry, start us
Harry
off.
usually
start
starts
us off.
off.
Well, it's a little thunderstormy here in Minnesota, so we're going to go with that direction. But on January 5th, 2017, my name is Harry Vigo John Jensen, by the way. On January 5th, 2017, my father was caught in a hailstorm of metastatic cancer that just came down on him like little shards of ice, and he went paralyzed from that little ice shard, and then he had too many ice shards in his lungs, and he passed away. He passed away from a thunderstorm of cancer, colon cancer.
Colon cancer.
Hi,
Harry.
hello.
Hi, Harry.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
of course.
sharing.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm Gabby. My mom died on September 3rd, 2016. And she had an eco-friendly death, I like to say. She kind of just got composted by cancer, just in the lung, liver, bones, brain, breast, just kind of, decomposing beautifully into some type of soil. That's how she
Natural.
went. Cancer
Natural.
mainly, but also natural. Yeah,
So
organic.
We have a thundery ice shard storm and composting so far. How about you, Maddie?
Well, let me take a whack at it. I am Maddie, and my mother also died September 3rd, 2017. 2016. Oh my God, I knew I was gonna mess that up.
I knew you were copying me.
I get 2016 and 2017 mixed up for some reason. I think it's because I hear Harry's 2017. Okay, anyways, 2016. My mother is Gabby's mother. Yeah, and I'm gonna take a little detour here. Like someone's bowling kind of, and my mother's organs are the pins, and just kind of slowly, like one by one, the pins fell because, as we said, it was metastatic breast cancer. So, you know, one of the pins was her lung, and then another one was the bone, and then another one was the brain, et cetera, until all the pins had fallen.
Strike.
7-10 split. Yeah,
strike.
Exactly. One by one.
But in that, I'm imagining not one strike, right? Like multiple balls going down the bowling alley, one pin at a time.
Yeah. It wasn't a strike. No, it wasn't. Yeah, that would have been
It was
more
a spare.
efficient. That would have been more efficient. I don't even know if it was a spare.
They didn't spare her. She didn't get spared at all. It was not a spare.
So I have to ask, because this is going to be episode 200 of Grief Out Loud. And no one in 200 episodes has introduced and told their story of grief in quite the same way that the three of you do. And I'm wondering, like, what's helpful for you in being able to talk about your parents' deaths in these very illustrative, metaphoric, analogy kinds of ways?
I mean, I think that, well, first of all, we kind of thought it was a funny riff on like grief group gone wild, I guess. And obviously, like, we kind of cope with humor, I would say, or at least I'll speak for myself. But I think that's kind of I don't know. We always say if you're not laughing, you're crying. So I think we kind of just took that concept and we're like, we're really gonna laugh. And like, it's just cathartic in a way to like talk about such traumatic, dark things in a funny way. Like, it's kind of hilarious. The darker it is in a weird way, it kind of like loops back around. It's like, this is actually really funny in like some sick way. It's just easier to talk about, I think, with like a little veil of humor around it.
Yeah, and I think that because we all have shared a similar experience, that it is like kind of the one place we can go where we can express these feelings and not feel like we are going to make someone uncomfortable. Like if we were speaking the way that we do speak on the podcast to like people that, you know, don't have dead parents, like, I mean, the discomfort that we would like put upon them would make me feel very guilty, you know? So it's kind of like the one place that we can go to just like lay all of our cards on the table and not feel guilt, not feel shame, like not feel worried that like we might be making someone feel uncomfortable or what have you. And I also think that a lot of grief resources, like a lot of resources that have to do with like loss and death, it's a very serious topic. So I think oftentimes there's like a serious tone to like a podcast or a book, whatever. And I think we were just kind of trying to add a little bit of variety, I guess, to the buffet, if you will, of grief resources.
All you can eat. Yeah. I think from my end, like, it's just natural because, you know, losing someone is such a hyperbolic experience anyways. Like, it's so over the top that it doesn't always necessarily have to be over the top in a horrific way. I don't know. There's plenty of examples of other forms of doing that, like superhero origin stories. Like, you know, what if Peter Parker's like parents died and then the whole comic book was him just struggling to hold down a job and feeling isolated? That would not be fun to read at all. So let's make it a little bit more approachable, you know?
Well, as I was listening to you introduce yourselves this time around, this did not come to me when I was on your show. But a lot of times, so if we introduce ourselves and we say, I'm Jana, my aunt died of cancer. Like, that's it, right? And it doesn't really share much with the people who are listening about my story. And it allows other people to make shortcut assumptions about what that experience might have been like for me. And then on the other side of that, people who are grieving, oftentimes the grief goes beyond words and they turn to other people and other people's ability to articulate it in a way that they could say, yes, thank you. Those are the words I've been searching for. And so as you shared today, I was like, oh, this almost is like reading poetry, the kind I like, where you read it and it's short, but it says so much and it gives you so much more of like a full body experience of trying to get a sense of what it was like, for you all to be young adults and to have your parents dying of cancer. It just shares so much more deeply than just my mom died of cancer and my dad died of colon cancer. I know you're going for the more funny, irreverent part of it, but there's this other side too that I think is really a gift and an honor to those of us who listen to your show or get a chance to talk to you in this way too.
It's as visceral as the experience felt. I think it's like, even if it's visceral in a different way, like that is, we're kind of putting the listener maybe in our shoes a little bit.
Definitely.
And so I know you all know, well, Gabby and Maddie, you know each other because you are siblings, and you also, the three of you know each other through this podcast. But how did the three of you originally meet? Well, Gabby and Maddie, how did you meet Harry? How did you meet Gabby and Maddie? And how did you come to find out that you had dead parents in common? Not the same parent, but you know what I mean? Like all three of you had a parent who died. How did that go?
Well, Gabby and I went to we all went to the same high school, but Gabby and I were in a very strange, small friend group together. And we just sort of happened to meet when I was a senior in high school and she was a sophomore in high school. And both of our parents were alive at that time. So the way I found out that Gabby's mom died is she called me and she said, "My mom's dead." And then later I called her and I was like, "My dad's dead." So it was pretty organic.
It was actually really funny too, because like, obviously I was aware your dad was like battling cancer the whole time I knew you. And I think I had mentioned like, oh yeah, my mom had cancer like 7 years ago or something, but she's fine now. And then all of a sudden I was calling Harry and being like, my mom's in hospice. And he was like, how did you beat me?
Caught
like,
up.
how did your mom... She lapped him and actually died first, which is a little competition we have where my mom got first place and no big deal.
Yeah, I thought...
Yeah, because Harry's dad was sick for a long time before he died. So, like, over a decade,
Yeah,
right?
over a decade. And so Gabby had... I do remember you mentioning that your mother had cancer, and... To me, that was like even luckier than never having cancer. I was like, all right, you're just bragging. And then all of a sudden, you hit your mother hit her final wind, and it was like the Olympics, like marathon. This up and comer just charging through, bursting through the ribbon.
Was up and
That last second, just pulling
Final
ahead,
burst.
going through the winner's ribbon.
Against all odds.
Exactly. It was a sprint. Yeah.
And it may already starting to be obvious to our listeners, but what's been helpful for the three of you knowing each other through this experience of having your parents die?
I think it's just a great place to feel less alone. I mean, I'll kind of talk about how, like, I met Harry through Gabby, obviously, and like we weren't really friends at first. Like, you were just kind of an acquaintance through Gabby. Like, you were one of Gabby's friends. And then... we just kind of started to get to know each other more. And then Gabby and Harry kind of created this idea for starting the Dead Parents Club. And through that, I've gotten to know Harry a lot more. And it just feels like such a safe space to go to talk about to talk about the unique experience that is a parent dying, not only a parent dying, but like when you are a young person that hasn't really grown into like a full adult yet. So I guess just for me, like plain and simple, it's just a safe space. And it's really fun to be able to share in the dark humor of it because, you know, I know other people that have dead parents, but like they might not be as keen on sharing in that dark humor experience. Like, and I understand that, like for maybe the first year after my mom died, like I wasn't ready to joke about it. So, you know, kind of coming to this place and then sharing in this experience with the two of you, it's been really beautiful.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I agree. I mean, honestly, it's been like invaluable to me because, well, obviously it's just wonderful to have like a sibling that went through that exact same loss. Like, I can't imagine being an only child or something and having that happen. Because, you know, not everyone knew my mom like you did. So that's just amazing. But then Harry, it's like, it brought us so much closer, I think. And it was just like the weirdest blessing that I never thought I would call that a blessing. Being like, both of our parents died. This is great. But like, we were already best friends before. And then it just felt like so awesome that we could connect in that way. It just brought us so much closer, I think. And it was like, before we would just talk on the phone and whatever we would talk about before our lives blew up. But like, then like now we can talk on the phone and like talk about these very like deep, intimate, dark experiences that we both relate to. And it's not like, it doesn't feel like a burden. It doesn't feel like I'm dropping like a huge emotional dump on Harry because like he's been through the exact same thing and like I'm there to hear him out. So it's just such a great outlet. Like, I don't really know anybody else that has had like even a similar experience, honestly. So it's great to have two of the closest people to me to talk to.
Yeah, I think there's having people who are close to you have had the same experience. It helps mitigate some of like the shame and the sort of elliptical Mobius strip MC Escher puzzle of grief where you just keep on ending up at the same platform again and again. And then being able to, you know, go on the podcast or call up Gabby or something and just find someone else who's also just stumbling around, you know, in this impossible labyrinth. Because, yeah, with folks, even the people who can commiserate best and are like highly empathetic, there's still this feeling of like explaining your situation, and even if they're giving you their all, there's still some worry, for me at least, that, you know, someone's thinking, how are you still here, or why are you at this stage, or you know, and there's just a comfort in not having to try to articulate where I am in a journey, just to know that someone else is on a path as well.
What do you think the world gets wrong or doesn't understand about grieving at your age range, young adult, quote unquote, between like, you know, 18-ish to like 30-ish? What do you think the world doesn't understand about being that age and grieving a parent?
I think one thing that I have been realizing lately is that at that younger age range, I think that typically you know, you might not think of someone who's like 18, 19, 20, 21 as like a child, but they're still a child of their parents. And we're also in like a societal economic situation generally where I think like multi-generational households and like economic interdependence are still a thing. So, you know, if you're a child like under 18, a minor, and you lose a parent, like I think it's more obvious that you're losing someone you like truly depend on because you're like in the name of the law dependent. But when you're a little older, I think it's like, well, you're an adult now. But at that younger age, there's still a lot of things that a lot of my peers and cohorts still rely on their parents for that I can't, for instance. Like, in this day and age, a lot of people my age still live with their families, are getting financial assistance from their families, things like that. And that's not as much an option when that person is obliterated. So I think that being 18 is not quite a child, not quite adult, and there's like this liminal space where you still really need your parents on like multiple practical, pragmatic levels.
Yeah, I completely agree. Something that I feel is like this misplaced label from like older people onto, I think, like our age range, like when you lose a parent at a young age, where they will mislabel you or kind of like project this label of like strength onto you, where they're like, you are so strong. You're so strong. Like the amount of times that like an older person has said that to me. And it's like, well, yeah, of course you think I'm strong because we're standing here in like a very normal setting. Like you're not seeing me at night when I'm in the fetal position on my bed, like sobbing about my dead mother. Like it's very easy to, just see me in like this normal setting when we're out in the world. I'm at, we could be at like a CVS or something. It's like, yeah, of course I look strong right now. Like, what am I supposed to be breaking down into your arms? Like, and then I feel like it kind of perpetuates this, kind of puts pressure on you to like be like, oh yes, you're right. I am strong. Like I must act strong because everyone thinks I'm strong. And I just think it can be kind of confusing. And I don't know. That's one that kind of pisses me off.
I was going to say something like that too, where people are like, well, at least you got X amount of years with that person. And it's like, oh, come on. Like, seriously. And like going along with that, I think what's misunderstood too is that, or something that's just not, like, I feel like I had to learn it the hard way, is that grief doesn't go away. And when you experience it at a very young age, you have like a way longer timeline of grief, which is something that's like not really taught. And also there's just not a lot of resources set up for young people grieving, I feel like. Thankfully, like at my high school, when my mom died, there was a grief counselor automatically set up, which I know is not the case for a lot of people. But yeah, I feel like it's just like the timeline is misunderstood, where it's like you might view like a kid as like, oh, like they're strong, they'll bounce back and like they'll just get over it, whatever. But this concept that it's just forever and you have just added potentially like 20 or 30 years onto the timeline of like grieving a parent that would normally maybe pass away when you were like 40 or something.
I love the idea of flipping the script a little bit, because oftentimes if someone's older when their parent dies, it's like at least you had 20, 30, 40, 50 years with that person. And on the other side, you also had 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life not grieving that person.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. Harry, you mentioned like being a young adult, you're in this spot where people often misperceive financial independence or other ways of being independent from parents and still really being reliant on them for a lot of different things, including emotional and financial and physical support. The other thing I think about in that age range, well, this is true for almost all age ranges over a certain age, is the idea of dating, and like, what is it like to take grief into the dating sphere if you all have? I feel like that's something that comes up a lot in our young adult groups, is like, how do I tell people? How do I find someone who's not going to be a jerk about my grief? Like just figuring all of that out. What's that been like for the three of you?
Who wants to start?
We're laughing, listeners, because Gabby's eyes just got really big about that question.
Okay, well, I'll dip my little toes into the water.
Yeah, you go, Harry.
Yeah, I would say that for me, it's never been like it's never a secret I can really keep from a friend or and not just because I love just blurting it out on the bus and wherever I am at the grocery store, but my life is so still wound up in my father's passing. Like, for instance, the thing I've been doing for the last couple years is, and I'm in the finishing processes now, is clearing out my father's house and still trying to get rid of it and get rid of his stuff and so my life is so wound up in it that if I'm going to be dating someone, like it comes up in small talk in about 4 seconds flat. It's like, so what do you do? Well, when I'm not cleaning out my dead father's house, I like to scribble. It's like always it's the first
Yeah.
clause of any sentence I say about myself. But in those moments, I think I try to be a little bit more candid about it and not do the scary thing, because I've definitely scared off a few dates with the, oh, it was a big hailstorm of destruction and he blew up like the channel. It's but yeah, I don't know. Dating can be, I think it gets easier over time, but in the beginning, sometimes it can be like you're really worried if this person is going to see your experience. I think that's just an initial hurdle, because there's so many different kinds of experiences that are hard to share or communicate.
So it comes out right away no matter what, but it sounds like over time you've maybe been grown a little bit more self-conscious or aware of how to titrate it out in a way that the other person can manage.
Yeah, because sometimes you want to scare someone just if you're for your own amusement, but often not.
Definitely. No, I relate so hard. I think I used to be extremely trigger happy with dropping the proverbial bomb of like, my mother's dead. Like, it would come up within the first, like Harry said, 4 seconds of meeting really anyone, like a romantic prospect, a friend, like it didn't matter
A
who.
foe.
A friend, a foe. I was like, my mother's dead. And so I've tried over time to like reel that in, and because now I recognize that sometimes that can lead to trauma bonding and things such as that. And but I will say, as far as dating goes specifically, I was in a long-term relationship when my mother died, and it went on for like a couple years afterwards. And this person came from a family that was more functional than I had ever experienced growing up, like very like intact family, parents still married, parents still alive. As humans, like we strive in our relationships for like deep, meaningful connection with like a lot of understanding, especially me, I'll speak for myself. That's what I really value in relationships, like very deep understanding and connection. And I just felt like because we came from such different places, and especially after my mother died, I just felt like there was this lack of understanding that I think I really grew resentful about. And I've seen that in relationships since. And I think that that's just, something that you have to accept. Not everyone is going to be able to understand. Not every single person you interact with is going to have a dead parent. So I've had to accept that over time. But after a couple relationships, I decided like, all right, the next person I date needs to have a dead parent. Like, I don't care if that is too specific. I don't care if that, like, if my list is getting too niche of needs that need to be met. But I found one, actually. So now I'm dating someone that also has a dead mom. His mother died when he was 18. And I mean, I wouldn't do it any other way now. now that I the grass is greener on this side, I'm telling you.
Will there be a coming soon, like the Dead Parent Club dating app?
Oh,
okay.
that's a great idea.
Brilliant.
I love that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just going to echo what you guys said, but to your point, Maddie, about you can't expect everyone to have a dead parent / get it. That is something you have to definitely like come to accept just in any relationship, I think. What is important to me is just someone who is like willing to learn about the experience and like willing to, I don't know, like try their best even if they don't fully empathize to like meet you there. I've had people who just seem like kind of uninterested about my mom's death, and it's like a huge part of my life and my identity at this point. So if you're not really curious about it, and maybe some people are just like shy to talk about those things because they don't know how to talk about death. You got to know how to talk about death if we're dating. That's rule number one. But like, I value in relationships someone who like cares to learn and meet me there and is willing to talk about it because they know that it's important to me to talk about.
One thing that came to mind as you were all talking is, I'm not sure if this is true, but were your parents, both of you, all three of you, were your parents divorced or separated when your
Yes.
person
Oh, you bet your
died?
bottom dollar.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
you
that's what I
bet.
thought. And that's a unique situation. And you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, what do you think it is? What's different about having parents who are split up or separated or divorced or estranged when one parent dies versus the imagining? You haven't had the experience of what it would be like if parents were still together.
I was very surprised at how hard my dad took my mother's death because they had been divorced for so long. I mean, it wasn't that long. They had been divorced for like a few years officially. But I had a feeling that they were going to get divorced my whole life just because they never got along and there really virtually was not any love between them or affection. So I was very surprised at how hard my dad took it. It was, I mean, to an extent, you know, of course he's going to take it hard, like they were life partners and they had 3 kids together, but it kind of like destroyed his life. And that was a bit surprising to me, just like how hard he spiraled after the death.
I've heard some people say that when one parent dies, it feels like they lose the other parent too.
Yeah.
Because the other person is, you know, so consumed in grief. And it sounds like it was maybe surprising to you that maybe that experience was happening for you, given that your parents had been split for a while.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I totally understand, you know, everyone's grieving and I completely understood that. Like he had his own grief to process, but yeah, it kind of was to the point where he was incapable of like really functioning, you know, as an adult and as a father, which I tried not to judge, you know, but it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And it did feel like we lost 2 parents after that, which was really complicated.
Yeah. I think a layer to the divorce thing too is that, like, I think most children of divorce have, like, if you're going between 2 houses, you kind of have one house or one parent that you're like, this is really my house. And maybe the other one is just the one you bring a duffel bag to. And I think this phenomenon tracks, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. But at least that was my experience. So it brings another layer if the pillar parent is the one who dies, which that was my case. My mom was that person. So
And you were left with duffel bag dad.
I was left with duffel bag dad. And so if that is the case, I think that brings, you know, there's just a lot of mixed emotions. I'm sure it would be a strange experience reverse too if the parent you weren't maybe that close with died. You know, like there's so many layers to it, but I think that's definitely like an interesting dynamic that just, you know, you wouldn't really have to move around too much if you were just in one nuclear home and then the parent died and you're still just staying there and you're getting through it together as a family. But when there's a lot of moving and shaking involved and all the parent dynamics, it's kind of complicated.
And the death of a parent makes divorce seem like a piece of cake. You know, it kind of was like, well, divorce, that wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, I forget that the divorce was an issue for people. I'm like, oh, that little.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that even like in addition to being divorced, there's something about my dad was a bachelor, not a swinging bachelor, sort of a stationary bachelor. And so when he died, there was no, I feel like there's a lot of expectation of spousal figures to take care of, you know, the aftermath of their partner's death. But when there is no spousal figure, like you just got to sort of figure it out. Like my uncle played a big role and my brother played a big role and I played a big role. And it's always been this weird sort of congregation of duties and expectations that aren't really clear. And then the divorced parent is sort of typically out of that whole system of duty. And it can really sort of strain. It can be a strain on the relationship because, you know, then the pillar parent is still sort of the pillar parent, even though they're gone. Like it's not
Yeah.
often that the other person just totally, they're like, all right, I'm putting on my boots. I'm not duffel bag daddy. I'm not moving on mommy. I'm not zooming away Zaza. I'm here to help, and I'm going to fix everything. That doesn't really happen. It's not like their place. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of
No.
expectation. Like, again, right now I'm selling my dead father's house, and if he had some lovely partner that was in his life, then she'd just be here, and I could just
Yeah.
move on. But 'tis not the case when bachelors bite the dust.
Again, you all with your illustrative, poetic explanations of these situations, really appreciating them. And I wanted to back up a little bit and give you all a chance to tell us a little bit about your pillar parents. And if you want to tell us one that maybe your parent would prefer not to go public, that's great too, since that seems a little in keeping with your show, your podcast. But you can also just tell us any short memory you'd like to about your person so we can get to know them a little bit.
Okay. Does anyone? I have one if no one.
Dive
Yeah, but
in.
you go.
Well, this is actually something I shared at the funeral, but it's probably just like one of the funniest memories I have of my mom, since it was like maybe in the year before she died, so it's like the freshest. But I think it just illustrates her personality. But basically, we were at our apartment together, and she loved to dance and sing. She was so tone deaf, but she would listen to music so loud and, I don't know, clean, run around, do her thing. So she was listening to Gold Digger by Kanye West. And this song was full volume on a speaker. Like, absolutely, like, and for context, the other residents of this apartment were, like, elders. So it was, like, us and then just a bunch of, like, retired, like people would pace the hallways as a workout, like pretty fairly old people. And so she's screaming this song, dancing around the apartment, and there's a knock at the door. And it's the manager of the apartment who was in the office downstairs, who could literally hear her playing this music and had to ask her to quiet down. And I was in the room and I was just like, I can't believe my mom just got a noise complaint for screaming Kanye West. So yeah, that's probably my fondest memory. And she was so embarrassed. So she'd probably be a little embarrassed if I shared that.
She listened to music so loud.
Yeah.
Harry?
Okay. Let's see what's coming up. My father. Now it just sounds like I'm starting a eulogy. I think one of the memories that I enjoy of my father is that he, what was it? This is great. He would cook dinner every Sunday night, which was amazing because he had stage 4, metastatic cancer for about a decade, and he still managed to cook these delicious dinners. He was a fantastic cook, refused to teach me how to cook, and now I'm atrocious, which is great. But there was one night, and then I would do the dishes, or me and my brother would do the dishes, or me and my uncle. And my father was on a chemo holiday. And for those who don't know, chemo holiday is when your treatment is working, or for whatever reason, you're just not taking your chemo at that moment. But his cancer was very slow growing, and he would have quarterly scans every 3 months. And the next day, he was going to get the results back from a scan, so that Monday. And he would always forget to tell me the results. He would never text me. He would call his friends and his grandma, or his mother rather. His dead grandma, anyone. He'll tell someone at the grocery store, but he would never tell me. So I was like, "Hey Dad, could you," and I'm finishing up the dishes. I've just cleaned the counters, and he's playing a game on his phone. And I say, "Dad, could you tell me this time if, you need to go back on treatment?" And he doesn't look up from his phone, and he says, "It's your fault if I get cancer again." And I was like, what? And that was just one of his classic jokes. And I was like,
Classic
Dad,
dad.
why did you say that? And he just sort of,
So
he just doesn't even laugh. He just goes to bed. The next day, I don't get a text at the time. I know he has his appointment, and I text him. And he's like, yep, got cancer again. And I was like, oh, great. So now it's my fault. But that was his
great.
sense of
Yeah.
humor. It was pretty meta. Pretty. Yeah, it was
Metastatic,
metastatic. So that was a great moment when I gave my father cancer, apparently.
Okay, yeah. So I have one, and I hope it's not like too graphic. But it's really one of the first things that came to my mind, which is ridiculous. Let me get into it. So every summer for a very long time, our family would go up north to northern Minnesota, where we would like stay at a cabin, and we would boat around on like this chain of lakes, and we were with a couple other families that we were really close to. And, you know, my mother would like be in her swimsuit on the boat. And every summer, I just remember when I was a little girl, like looking at her in her swimsuit, and my mother had like the biggest bush ever. And like it would just be like cascading out of her swimsuit. And I remember when I was a child, I was like disgusted by it. Like I was like, wow, my mother is really just out here with all of that going on. And
She's body positive.
she was so body positive, and she was just like completely like natural. Like that was who she was. And so now I look back and I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Rock on, Mom. You did that. And like she just didn't care what anyone thought. Like she knew it was visible, but she just didn't care. And that was who Susie was. So that literally was one of the first thoughts that came to my mind. I just remember every summer seeing her like that, and I was like,
Can't believe that.
So
It really stands out to me that the three of you picked, you know, memories that you thought, oh, maybe my person would love for the whole world to know about this. But it seems like they also really capture parts of your parents' personality that were really stand out strong to you. You know, Harry, your dad's humor, which it seems like maybe you've inherited. And, you know, Gabby, for you, your mom just like singing super loud, but then getting embarrassed because she got busted by the mall walkers in the apartment hallway. And Maddie, you know, well, we don't need to say yours again. Maddie, that one we'll be thinking about for a while.
we can cut it.
You were right. You chose a good one for one she wouldn't want anyone to know. That was on the nose.
Would she not want anyone to know? Everyone knew. Everyone knew. It
I don't
wasn't
know.
a secret.
You know what? In 2021, that's revolutionary. Like,
I wish I met her. I wish I met her
She's
more.
old school.
yeah.
Well, we're pretty much at our time. So can we do a lightning round?
Oh, yeah.
I don't actually know what that is, but I hear lots of other podcast hosts say, hey, we're going to do a lightning round. So let's do a lightning round,
Okay,
which in my
yeah,
mind
lightning.
means
Do it.
answer this question in a sentence or less. And so my question to you is the one that I hate that people ask me, like, what's one thing you would recommend for other people in a similar situation? But I'm going to ask you that. Like, if you were to have someone sign on to the Dead Parents website and be like, please help. My parent just died. I'm 21. What's the one thing I should know or do or not do? Sentence or less. Harry?
Oof. I would say just keep talking about it, because eventually you'll say something that makes you feel heard.
Love it.
I would say, like, don't judge yourself for how you're grieving. That's one sentence. Like, there's no right or wrong.
two
way,
sentences.
You know.
Oops,
okay.
not lightning. I would say understand and accept that grief never ends. Second sentence, maybe. And grief can be really enlightening. That's what I would say, too.
I appreciate that you end the lightning round with the word enlightening.
Enlightening, yes.
So enlighten us, me, and the listeners again with if people want to connect with you all, connect to your podcast, connect to the Dead Parents Club, like where should they go? I'll put all this in the show notes, but sometimes it's just nice for people to hear it too.
Okay, so we are on the World Wide Web at deadparentsclub.rip, not .com.rip. Let's get on it, griefies. We are on Instagram at deadparentsclub.rip. And our podcast, Monday Morning with a U, is on, I think, every podcast app you can get. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much where you can find us at this point.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. It's been just as much fun to have you on Grief Out Loud as it was to be a guest on your podcast, the Monday Morning podcast. So I really appreciate you making time across the time zones to come and laugh and have some dark humor with us and tell us about your parents and give us a little insights into what is it like to grieve as a young adult and what do you need and what does the world need to do a better job of. So thank you again for your time
It's
today.
been a hailstorm of fun.
Thank
A
you.
hailstorm of fun.
Yeah, it's been a lightning round of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't have one. It's been a tornado of excitement, and it's been great. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, listeners, thank you for joining us for this Weather Channel of Grief podcast episode today. And thank you again for being part of our listening community. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can email me at griefoutloud@dougie.org. You can find all of our past episodes at our website, which is also dougie.org. That's DOUGY.org. So thanks again for listening, and we hope you'll join us again next time.